it's just kind of a thing where, what do you discuss? But seriously, and who's even qualified whenever we aren't the globalists or whoever's, I'm sorry, frankly, probably set this whole thing up. I don't mean to just let the wind out of everything, but considering there are several 100 million people, or however many people shooting shit at you, and the chances you're going to come across this are fairly slim. There's every other perspective out there. Why not throw one in here that says, it's difficult. I don't want to test anybody's ego globally or whatever, because on different levels, kids, they are doing what is presently at hand, perhaps. I don't know. But it sure seems like the whole thing is just getting cooked up already. And so to engage that line of discussion based on a set of circumstances we as individuals didn't have any freaking thing to do with, there's no way. Why engage in that? Why engage in the stepped and leveled and incremented agenda, itinerary? I need to grab a white shirt. Probably not the best idea on 106 degree heat index days. Why not skip all that and talk about something that affects through every tier, every level, every cosm in terms of macro and microcosm? It affects all of them. And I understand it's a big amalgamous, it's a big old hunk to swallow, and it's not something that you can, it's not something that's going to affect your life this time around like a world war and nuclear shit going off all over the place would. And I mean, it's to a point where I don't know if this whole galactic center thing is going to set off a bunch of shit where the idea has been to cook you into big masses, get you ready to turn on each other or whatever, and provide a distraction, provide a buffer from stuff that we are obviously not being taught about in your precious school, to be kind of rah-rah tie it into your situation, I guess we just better check for shades, because those are my goggles too. My eye protection. Jaguar on the outside, blue on the end. Balloon. No. Okay. This is a disheveled message. But at least you're getting some moving around and stuff. I know I've had complaints in the past that I create a seasickness with some of my videos, but I don't necessarily see it. Yep, there they are. Good deal. All right, buddy. We'll see ya. Buddy wheel. I don't know. Anyhow, but in blunt terms, what I'm saying is, why not engage the world and say, hey, look at this, look at this, look at this. All these things are cooking up. And no, we didn't set them in place in order to create some controlled deconstruction. Now, we could sit here and talk about, well, so-and-so's got this embargo trade thing, and that's just some bullshit that goes back to his grandpa. We don't even... However, we've built out tier systems into this set of circumstances, so we kind of can't just be reversing entire trends bred into and profited on. So, folks, how do we get to the bottom of this whole shebang, maybe for the first time in 450,000 years? I don't know what, in terms of depth of history. History sounds too much like it's already been put in a textbook or something, I don't know how far back we go, kids, it could be millions of years, and you look at the amount of confusion that can be created amongst a bunch of people who have acquired tools and stuff in the past couple hundred years that should kind of, you would think, maybe, well, you're crossing lines too with those tools, obviously, in the form of weapons and shit, but anyhow, I guess unfortunately it lends credence to the idea that hard work and only knowing as far as the horizon is more conducive to your collective lacking volatility. But again, it helps whenever you're not already laid up all over each other. Blowing up Vietnam, for instance, after you get scraped, I don't know the details on that, so I get a little bit leery to. And it seems it's what people are gonna do. They're gonna survive better the more technology they get their hands on, and I tend to doubt that Vietnam would be the same place today in terms of things it's acquired had we not gotten in there. If nothing else, you've been traveling there a lot. You probably left some power converters and shit behind. They caught on. Now they're saying, well, they're not saying much. They're kind of, and that brings us up to the point I was making about the distraction. If that's all they're doing is trying to get you riled up, then obviously the best thing for us as individuals would be not to engage that. And like I say, America, I can't see America saying, oh gosh, this is bad. What can we do to help this situation? In that intonation. I don't know that rebuilding a military is a great thing to know we're going to be doing, perhaps. I just caught that little bit of a speech, and I don't mean to dog the guy entirely. Here's Police Lives Matter. My cat is smarter than your teacher. So a couple ETs are missing from the trumpet there, but well, yeah, if we were able to be distracted, of course, what they distract you with is a bunch of shit that's going to cause turmoil within and amongst you. The whole competitive marketing and buying, keeping up with the Joneses thing, just touching on that a little, I guess. I don't know. I've noticed a couple of tubes talking about Putin and how he's saying, how come nobody's talking about this or whatever. Well, we're talking about it, but I just don't know if, again, all respect to Putin, because I don't want to come off as saying he's just playing along, he's just, I think Russia right now is kind of held as the holdout against a new world order or whatever, I don't, again, understand these things to the extent I would need to be throwing tip-offs and shit in the fucking mix of stuff, kids, but it just sucks that we are this focal point of who gets involved with everything, who's got all the movie stars, who's got all the decadence. We hear that as us being an obese culture or whatever, but if you step back and look at different situations where you had, just people not living well as compared to other people who live in this place where it's kind of closed off and everybody's getting fat and having fights about their pink shirt, If we weren't that person, well, then I would kind of be encouraging I guess, you know, from my lame perspective and my level of understanding, I'd be saying, yeah, don't get involved with that stuff. Play around with your crossword puzzle in the back seat. We're not there yet. Don't come out all pissed, you know. So, just a fortunate little play on words there as we close out this portion of How's This Mini, because I know this freaking battery is going to go any second because they don't like to leave the telecability.